Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Inside Track, Equibase's weekly handicapping podcast, where we give our analysis, picks, and wagers for some of the weekend's top races. I'm your host, as always, Ben Kudla, and joined back by popular demand is Corey Patton, back on the show today, the CEO and co-founder of Pramana Labs, which creates all the stat lines handicapping content on Equibase.com. You can find those top plays on the Equibase homepage, as well as all of the entries page on the right-hand side under free tools. So welcome back, Corey. Great to have you on.
And great to be here. Popular demand, if you mean dozens of people, that's popular demand, surely. Excited to be here. Love it.
Good deal. Good deal. So with Pramana Labs kind of being an AI natural language type company, what do you think the future in horse racing with AI is?
Well, Ben, you and I both know that handicapping is just opinions. It's looking at a ton of data and it's making educated opinions based on experience, what we've seen, what has been successful, what is not, lessons learned, all that type of stuff. Now, with AI, a lot of that is interpreting machine learning models that's looking at past performances and saying, okay, how do we then make an opinion out of this in a more automated way? What Pramana Labs does is say, take all that structural data, take all that tracking data, take all that standard past performance data, and then let's turn that into natural language so that you can digest it and read it. Okay. I think a lot more AI is going to be focused on taking that large, copious amounts of data, even optical tracking information, and writing automated race reports, automated position reports, GPS ingestion, all stuff that then can be turned into language that people can understand and comprehend and make educated opinions on. But at the end of the day, it's still going to be just an opinion. So as much as you can do to automate, as much as you can do to reach fans, make succinct decisions based on copious amounts of information, it's still going to output an opinion, and you still got to put your money down at the window where it is. So we're going to try to shortcut a lot of that stuff at Pramana Labs with a lot of our output that turns raw data into natural language, but we're still going to work within the confines of the human has to make the ultimate decision, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Such a cool company. And yeah, like you said, AI is really just to help the consumer, the person. Yeah, and your company is definitely ahead of the game on that that AI generation stuff. So very cool. Also this Saturday, give yourself a chance to earn your way to NHC 2025. Every Saturday is a weekly feeder contest at horseplayers.com. The race to the NHC, and the top two finishers from each of those weekly feeder contests will make it to the Race Lens Final 50 in February 22nd. The top two finishers from the Race Lens Final 50 will make it to NHC 2025. So go up and sign up and play at equibase.com/NHC. So we are just about a week away from Breeders' Cup. How exciting. We do have one weekend to go of racing, and be sure to tune in for both of our Breeders' Cup specials next week. The Equibase podcast, that'll be with yours truly, Corey Patton, Christina Blacker from FanDuel, Scott Cole's an NHC champion, and Dan Torgman from ABR. And we also have Colin Sheehan next week on the Inside Track for our Breeders' Cup special. So be tuned for those on Wednesday and Thursday of next week. But today's show will feature the Grade 2 Mother Goose Stakes at Belmont at the Big A, the Grade 2 Fayette Stakes, and the Grade 3 Bryan Station Stakes at Keeneland. So let's just start off with this Fayette Stakes, going a mile and an eighth on the dirt for 3-year-olds and up. Last year's winner was O'Connor for trainer Safi Joseph Jr. with Tyler Gaffalione aboard. Competitive field of 10 here, lots of value. Interested to hear what you have to say.
Well, I'm going to temper mine by saying when I look at this race, it's the old adage, pace makes the race. And I think that I looked at something that is really hard to overlook on a pace scenario. Now, I'm going to go with Tumbarumba, the 2-horse. And I'm going to put a little caution in there that Tumbarumba is also entered in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile as well. So I'm not sure where, he goes and where he finally enters. But if he stays in this race, I think he's got the pace. And I think this horse is going to sit the trip. And I really have to look at a lone speed angle in here, right? So let's dig in a bit. If you look at the Pramana stat lines, one of the interesting ones is we track where horses were during the position of the race, what fractions they sent, whether they hung on, and how that actually race played out. So in the last race, he set a 46.24 in that mile stakes race last out at the ACAC. And, and then finished second, hung on to be a runner-up in that race. That's the 4th fastest half mile of any dirt route, not just stakes, dirt route runner-up at any track, that is yet to run back in the last 45 days. So that's a good number. And at this track, he probably will have the lead if you look at the other horses in this race. And I just don't think anybody can do that. The 46, 111, even posted, things like 110 before. I just think he's going to have the lead. And over the past 30 days, leaders of the half mile and 9 furlong races on dirt have hung on about a third of the time. So he's going to be in position to win. He's going to have, a third of a chance if you look at it from position of the race, and should probably be able to set a really sensible pace. There's not a ton of speed signed on in here, and that's really something you look at when you try to break down a race. Very consistent. I mean, 4 straight seconds in stakes races, first or second in 9 of his last 11 races. The horse just runs, right? I love that. I love a horse that competes like that. Lynch, his trainer, 2 of 6 over the past year in stakes races at Keeneland, can get it done, is having a really nice meet already, winning at 29% at the meet. He's 2 of 4, in the last 10 days at Keeneland, 40% overall at all tracks over the last 10 days. I think that Lynch and Saez get it done on the front end with every chance to score a little bit of an upset in here.
I love it. Yeah, I thought the same thing of that horse. I mean, just loves to compete. I mean, 10 out of his last 12 starts in the money, coming off 4 second place finishes in a row. But yeah, like you said, I mean, he's in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, so I doubt he's going to be in here. But it's an interesting horse, especially at 6-1 if he was still in. Yeah, Brian Lynch having a fantastic meet, 4-14, like you said, 29%. So definitely agree with you on that one. But what do you think about this War Campaign horse? Really caught my eye quite a bit, especially with the morning line 8-1. A nice 5-year-old by declaration of war from the Phil Simms barn. Actually worked with this horse back in 2021 when I was grooming horses for Phil Simms. And I can tell you one thing from the start, Phil has absolutely adored this horse. He thinks very highly of him. Been working really well. October 14th, worked a bull at 5 furlongs in a minute, 0.2, 4 furlongs at 47.6 on October 21st. Loves to run second at Keeneland, regardless of the race level. 3 seconds from 5 starts at Keeneland. 4-7 in this money at this mile and 1/8 distance. Ranked second in average class in this race with a 110, and also ranked second in average speed with 100. His last 12 starts, he ran 100+ equibase speed figure in 9 of those. Has not won since December of last year when he threw a career best 112 ESF. I'll give you that, winning the Tinsel Stakes at Oaklawn by a length and a half. That being said, this horse has been running against some really tough competition. Going back to the Tinsel Stakes, War Campaign beat Strong Quality, came back to win 2 stakes races, including the Knicks Go Stakes at Churchill. The Grade 3 Essex Handicap at Oaklawn in March of this year, he ran second by a length the first mission. We saw him win the Grade 2 Ali Sheba Stakes. He ran second to King's Barnes in the Grade 3 Ben Ali Stakes here at Keeneland in April. And King's Barnes went on to win the Grade 1 Stephen Foster at Churchill at the end of June. And if you watch his last race, about midway through the stretch, it kind of looked like War Campaign was just empty. It was probably going to fade, but he had a nice surge at the end to lose by just a length. And I think this furlong stretch out will bode well for him. Love Gaffleone up here. He's winning at 23% in dirt routes, graded stakes races at Keeneland the last 3 years, 5 wins from 22 starts, and 50% in the money. So I'm going to take a shot here with War Campaign at 8-1. And as you saw, Phil's son, Matt, won his very first graded stakes last week in the Perryville with Brunacini.
Well, I love the fact you're playing an old friend here. I will say that one stat line about Simms.
Oh, yeah, 1,095 days or so.
Has not won a dirt route race at Keeneland in at least the last 3 years, 0 of 17.
Yeah.
That's not a great number, but it doesn't mean that he can't break the streak on Saturday for sure.
Records are meant to be broken.
That's correct. But that's one of those things that you look at and you say, that's a big number. But okay. Yeah. Well, if you're looking for value in here, I was looking at the 9 Grand Aspen at 10-1 for Jonathan Thomas. What do you think of that horse?
Definitely really interesting. I love Ortiz aboard. Jonathan Thomas, interesting. He's going from a Todd Pletcher to Jonathan Thomas with that long layoff. And yeah, I mean, 11th by 50 lengths his last time out back in January. That's tough to come back from.
Right there you are. Yeah.
He scratched that off though. I mean, he's a nice horse. Ran a 113, the Harlan Holiday Grade 3, finishing by a neck at Gulfstream in December. I mean, he's a nice horse. I mean, I like the 10-1. He's just so unknown with that long layoff. He might need another race, the level of competition in here.
I agree. I mean, he's 2 of 3 all time at this distance. He set that career high, a 113 in that Harlan's Holiday 2 back. If it's anything close to that 113, he puts him right in the action here. Jonathan Thomas has been doing okay, 3 of 7 in dirt races the last 45 days. That's pretty good. And 2 of 4 in stakes races the last 30. That's really good in here. So, he's bringing him into this position for a reason. Might need a race, but 10-1, those numbers say puts him right here in contention.
Oh, I agree. I love the value. Another interesting one was this Rattle and Roll. I could not wrap my head around that one. I mean, Kenny McPeek and Bryan Hernandez Jr. are not having the greatest Keeneland meet of all time. But this horse is interesting. I mean, second off a long layoff in that Grade 2 Lucas Classic, finishing third by 3 3/4 lengths. The Hit Show, the favorite in here, morning line favorite, I should say. But just an interesting horse. I mean, running in Grade 1, Grade 3s, Grade 2s all the way since September of 2022. So
look at the consistency there. That's what jumped out to me too. I mean, look at those graded stakes that horse has been competing in, and look at those triple-digit Equibase speed figures all the way, including that 115 Stephen Foster, right? So, I mean, everybody's gonna, even at 4-1, I think a lot of people will kind of overlook this horse. I think the horse could be right there, could run a big race on Saturday. And look, again, the Hernandez McPeek angle, 4%, 5% at the meet so far, not exceptional, but those two can get it done. We've seen them do it, all spring long. So this horse has every right to be in the game when they turn for home and maybe come running with a nice move. But I didn't know what to do. I also didn't like the fact McPeek's 0 for 8 in stakes races at Keeneland over the last year too. So those things are impactful for me. I'm just not sure what's going on there.
Yeah, it's interesting. He just has 1 win, Kenny McPeek at a 28. Bryan Hernandez Jr. just 2 wins in the meet. Yeah, it's interesting. It's uncharacteristic of these guys, but nonetheless, the horse looks very interesting.
Yeah,
I'm definitely going to throw him in there in exotics. You can't throw him out.
And we've gone through at least 4 horses now without mentioning Hit Show, the favorite.
Yeah.
So
I mean, yeah, that horse hits a lot of the boxes.
I mean, I can give you some numbers on stat lines that
they're nuts. Yeah.
We all just kind of tried to find value in here because not really sold on Hit Show, but let's just go. In form, won 3 of the last 4. That's impressive. Brad Cox alone. Let's do this. Brad Cox, do we need to? Winning at 71%, 10 of 14 in stakes races over the last 30 days. 71%. I mean, just stand back and think about that. 4 of 7, 57% win rate at Keeneland over the last 10 days. He's 5 of 7, 71% in stakes races at Keeneland over the last 45 days. 9 of 17, 53% in stakes races at Keeneland over the last year. And Cox and Florent Giroux, 4 of 5, 80% together in stakes races the last 45 days. Just insane, right? And you wonder why that's the 5th horse we talk about in this race.
Yeah. Well, for anybody who's looking at this race, obviously you got to add him in. But yes, we're looking for value, trying to get some bigger plays. And yeah, most likely Hit Show will probably win. But at 8-1 for my war campaign and 6-1 in your Tumbarumba, I think there's definitely some other value. But you definitely got to add Hit Show in there if you're playing any exactas, tries, supers, whatnot. But there you have it. There's your Grade 2 Fayette Stakes. And let's move on to the final stakes race for the Keeneland meet of 2024. So 1 mile on the turf for 3-year-olds, the Grade 3 Bryan Station Stakes. Last year's winner was Runaway Storm, who won by a nose at 20-1 in a dramatic 3-horse finish for trainer Ethan West with Colby Hernandez aboard. Full field of 12 here, plus 3 also eligibles with tons of value again. So interested to hear. I think we're both different on this race as well.
Yeah, we are definitely different in this. Again, I'm looking at value in here, and I think I've got something that is very interesting for me at 12-1, the 3-horse Herchee. And I think we're going to pull up the race here in a second to kind of watch his came out of a Kentucky Downs race, the Gun Runner. Those Kentucky Downs races that even if they're overnight stakes, it's a $1.5 million overnight stake, which is just absurd. And we're going to watch this horse. Watch Herchee's, the 2-horse coming up.
I believe the 3.
3. Oh, sorry, that's the 3-horse. I was not looking correctly at that. It's a 3-horse getting blocked. Watch the horse blocked here on the rail when they turn for home, sitting inside, and the horse is just going to have nowhere to go. It's crying out. It was sitting up here on the pace the entire way. It was a pretty exceptionally fast-paced race at 22:44, 108 and change. That's blazing fast, right? And so the horse, again, sitting down there, full of run, got nowhere to go. And he'll still have nowhere to go as they get into the stretch here. Gets blocked. And then finally finds himself a little bit of room, still stuck, hole right there behind a wall of horses.
Finds a little tiny hole.
And then still squeezed right there. And on the outside, the horses that are going to end up, Brilliant Bertie, the winner, is going to find no trouble whatsoever. And then watch Herchee on the inside re-accelerate, come up there, get a very nice second, only losing, by a length here.
Yeah, still going gamely.
Still going down on the rail. And all these horses that came that running up there on the outside, those were horses that were, running next to last during the race. So if you look at the actual here, what happened, the The leader, Drunk on Sake, in that race, faded to dead last. The horse in second position, up to his flank, Aspenite, finished second to last in this 11-horse field. The winner and the third and fourth place horses all came from way off the pace. Meanwhile, Herchee was up there on the pace, was part of that blazing pace, and then finished second, losing by just a length in that race. And I really like that. And I think, honestly, with a free run, that horse might actually be there on the wire with Brilliant Birdie, who is also in this race. I'll give you some stats here. So over the last year, 365 days, Helen Pitts owns the second best in the exacta percentage at a mile on the turf. 5 of 6, 83%.
Wow.
For any trainer of any track with at least 3 starts at the distance, that's 2 wins, 3 seconds. So you're looking at, exacta percentage for Helen Pitts on this exact distance on turf. Clearly, that's a check. If you're looking at the pace of the last race and how that horse finished, that's a check. Edinburgh Morales and Helen Pitts are 29% together since January of this year. That's almost, 1 and 3. That's great. There's an interesting piece here. He ran that last race on September 8th, finishing that second really, really good race in that $1.5 million race. According to the form, he was gelded on September 9th. Yeah. What a reward for that effort, huh? I mean, gosh, with friends like that. So then it's very interesting to see. Going to be a first-time gelding. I'm not sure what will happen out of that. Pitts hasn't won at Keeneland in the last 5 years. That's not great. 0 for 8. Mm-hmm. I'd look at that as kind of an interesting kind of just watch and see. Twirling Candies win at about 17% in turf routes at Keeneland all time, so can get it done. But really the difference here is Brilliant Birdie, who you just saw win that race by a length at best, is 7-2 morning line. Herchee's 12-1. They're out of the same race. I think that you got to look at 12-1 versus 7-2 in here and take the longer shot.
100% agree with that value logic there. 7-2, yeah, just beat them by a length. No, that's interesting horse, especially with that first time gelding. I wonder what Helen Pitt's stats are on that. I never got a chance to look those up. But definitely like your play. I think there are some other horses in here that have been around, in these greatest stakes type races. But I like it though. I'm kind of going with a different pick here, going on the outside with the 8 Mansa Musa. A nice, more like 8-1, nice Irish-bred colt who came across the pond to run at Keeneland in April of this year. Ran second by neck in his first start in North America in the Palisades Stakes at Keeneland, and ran a career best 103 Equibase speed figure there. His only win out of his 6 starts here was an AOC 110 at Saratoga, winning by a neck. But the second place finisher, 6th place finisher, and 10th place finisher in the race all came back to win in their next start. He ran second in the grade 3 quick call to Star of Mystery, and we all know how good he is. Tough race in the Mahoney Stakes at Saratoga, but he had a really nice start in the grade 1 Franklin Simpson Stakes last time out at Kentucky Downs, finishing third by just 1 3/4 lengths. If you watch that race, Mansa Musa, he's sitting 9th in the rail for most of that 6.5 furlong race, like 10 lengths from the leader. About midway through the stretch, just didn't look like he was going to do much, and he just turned on the jets and surged into third. So I think this stretch out to a mile is just what he needs. Bill Mott in the last 3 years wins at 29% in first route graded stakes races and 21% in turf graded stakes races at Keeneland. Interesting that Saiz is on today. His Alvarado, who's his normal rider, is on the 1-horse Neat. That being said, Mott and Saiz in the last 3 years win at 28% in graded stakes together, 7 of 25. Solid average class in here as well, ranked third in the race with 100. I love this 8-1. I'm going to take a shot here and try to beat Tricari. But that Neat also really interests me a lot.
Yeah, I saw when Junior made the move. I was kind of wondering about that. I mean, the stretch out for Mott shouldn't be an issue with that breeding, but it is doing something new, which is always interesting, right? I looked at that horse quite a bit. I looked at the Maker horse just to his outside a bit in this race. I even had a question for you because, again, I think on class it's just doesn't add up. But that Demolisher horse just wins. And coming over, from Indianapolis, it's very interesting that what do you take out of that horse? I mean, the class wise just doesn't seem to compete, but seems to just get to the wire each time. Is we looking for some black type here, or what's going on with that?
Interesting. I mean, yeah, completely undefeated. All at Indiana. But I kind of made this mistake. I think this was like a month ago in our show. Remember that one horse who won that Prairie Meadows race by 25 lengths or whatever, right up the track. I picked him. And I think it's kind of a similar type situation here. Yes, the horse is good, very talented. Don't get me wrong, at the level they're at, but going to a Keeneland graded stakes race from anywhere is very tough. But from stakes or state level stakes races in Indiana, I think it's going to be a bit tough. But I think he'll learn a lot from this race, and he might be the real deal. But I think that's where that 15-1 morning line goes to show for undefeated horse.
I think it's a bit of cheap speed, which may also play to some of the horses that want a little bit of pace up front, a little bit more than what you might get otherwise. I think will definitely impact the pace scenario, which you just handicap around it, and that's where I think my Herchee will kind of sit just off this one, and this one may push the pace a bit, but we'll see. Brilliant Birdie would love it if Demolisher got out there and kind of set some pace. But we'll see. I just looked at that, and you see a bunch of ones there. It gives you always kind of a what am I missing? And then when you look at the left, the track they're running in, that's what you're missing. Just the class is not going to be there on that one at all. But did you completely throw out the favorite?
I didn't completely throw it out, but at 2-1, I don't think it's worth a bet, even if it stays at 2-1 or he stays at 2-1. I mean, and it's hard not to like him. He checks off a lot of the boxes unless you want to dig deep to his debut in a maiden special weight at Keeneland, going a mile and a 16th on the turf where he did not fare well, finishing last by 15 lengths. But a very, very nice horse indeed. 2-1, just a bit low. I mean, 4 wins, this year from 7 starts, including winning the Grade 2 American Turf Stakes at Churchill, Grade 1 Belmont Derby Invitational, and then the Grade 2 Secretariat at Colonial. Ran 4th by just a length and a half in the Grade 2 City of Hope Mile at Santa Anita, which is always tough to ship into there. But he ran a career best and, best equibase speed figure of 109. But Grand Motion only wins at 11% in the last 3 years in graded stakes with horses who ran their career best speed figure last time out.
Nice.
That's another interesting one. This horse also has the best late pace rating. We'll give him that, the 115. Manny Franco has not rode much this meet, but he's definitely figured out how to find the winner's circle. 2 wins and a second from just 5 starts. And Grand Motion and Manny Franco are just 8% in the last 3 years. 1 win from 12 starts together, which is kind of interesting. So I think he definitely can be beat. I hate that outside post for him.
Yep.
So I'm going to go elsewhere. Try to find something else. I was going back and forth on Neat and Mansa Musa, just back and forth. And Neat is just so interesting. I can't get him out of my head. Finished 3rd last time out in that to Brilliant Birdie and Herchee in the Gunrunner Stakes we just watched, Kentucky Downs. Before that, he's coming off a win, the Grade 3 Manila Stakes at Belmont at the Big A, and then won the Grade 2 Racing Hall of Fame Stakes at Saratoga. His 4 wins and a third from 6 starts in 2024, all in stakes and graded stakes races. Junior Alvarado, Rabatras are winning at 67% clip in all stakes races in the past 3 years, and also some great stat lines. Rabatras has won 4 out of his last 10 starts over the last 10 days. Over the past year, Rabatras has 1 for 3 in stakes races at Keeneland as well. So very interesting horse at 8-1. If I like Mansa Musa, then I guess I kind of gotta like Neat as well, and also your Herchee since he got third.
You look. I mean, Neat's got 5 consecutive increasing equibase speed figures. It's always an angle I like.
Well. Yeah.
So I'll give you that. I'm going to stick with my 12-1, and that's my play of the day at Keeneland.
Love it. How do you think? Okay, one more thing. How do you think Brilliant Birdie's going to run? That's a big question for me. I don't. The 7-2 seems low on a morning line for that, but I think just because of that win in the Gunrunner.
Yeah, and I mean, look at the consistency in the last 5. I mean,
that's true.
Always runs, but I mean, again, the only time it's faced did beat Herchee, did beat Neat, but lost at Tricary the last in 2 back. So if you're gonna pick one, I don't know. I think it might. Brilliant Birdie will run up there, but I'm convinced that with a clean trip, Herchee beats Brilliant Birdie last race, and so I'm gonna say okay, he might get a better trip this time, and hopefully we're not getting stuck on the rail. And at that point, I think Brilliant Birdie can be beat. So at 7-2, I'm gonna try to take a stand against.
Love it. All right, well, there you have it. So Corey's going with Herchee, and I'm going with Mansa Musa in the Grade 3 Bryan Station Stakes at Keeneland. So last but not least, Equibase's feature race of the week, the Grade 2 Mother Goose Stakes at Belmont at the Big A. Mile and an eighth on the dirt for 3-year-old fillies. Some amazing fillies have won this race in the past, including Rachel Alexandra, Close Hatches, Midnight Bassoon, and Dunbar Road, just to name a few. Last year's winner, Zagara, for trainer Phil Bauer with Julian Leperoux aboard. Very excited for this race on Saturday with Tarifa and Gunsong. I know we're a little bit different. I think it's going to be kind of a match race between the two, but I know you got some value here, so love to hear it.
Yeah, I'm taking value on this because I just looked at both of those, and anytime you see two horses that come out of a stakes race that have just completely set their career best in that same race, it makes you wonder about it because both Gunsong and Tarifa posted their career best equibase speed figure in that cotillion, right? So Gunsong had that. If you look at it, just stands out on this page when you look at this race. That 112, that's 17 points higher than her previous career best. Okay. Tarifa's 106 was 7 points higher than the career best. And both of those were significantly higher than their previous race to that. So, if you strike those two figures, the rest of the horses in here fit right on numbers with them. So I'm looking at saying, okay, put a line through both of that 112, that 106, and you say, if those two were inflated, if that race is overly inflated, who else has a chance? And then you see a blank canvas in here. And you try to figure out, okay, well, if they come back to this field and those numbers are maybe slightly inflated, then there's a lot of horses with a chance. And so I'm going to go with headline numbers. All right. I think that's an interesting horse to look at. Obviously, that first race, that maiden special weight over this track, won by 11 3/4 lengths. That was impressive. Then came back and got placed first in that allowance optional claimer right afterwards. Ran a 91 when they took down Camera. So technically undefeated at this point in time. Has faced only 3-year-olds and older in both of those races, right? And I think that's an important thing when you look at these races, especially these 3-year-old stakes races, because the two favorites in here and a lot of the others have only ever faced 3-year-olds. So you look at the kind of the age difference, which can be significant. Maybe a little less so at this time of year, but still significant if you're looking at a year difference on that. Chad Brown. Okay, you got to start there. Chad Brown, has this horse. He has won the Mother Goose Stake twice. 2 of 7, 29%, 5 of 7 in the money in this race, all time with his charges. Since January 2023, he's 2 for 3 with 3-year-olds going from an allowance optional claiming to a grade 2 stakes race. Okay. So has been doing that over the last 2 years. So that move does not scare me quite as much when he's the conditioner. He's winning at 43%, 6 of 14 across all tracks the last 10 days. I'll give you some numbers at the Big A. Belmont at the Big A, 52%, 13 of 25 in the exacta the last 14 days. Wins at 46%, 6 of 13 over the last 10 days. 3 of 5, 60% over Belmont Big A dirt last 10 days. These two, Chad Brown and Irad Ortiz together on dirt at Belmont at the Big A, 2 of 6, 33%, and 5 of 6 in the exacta in 2024. So they can get it done together. There's an interesting move here, though, because the horse, I think you're going to look at it and you say, okay, Flavien Prat jumps off, and, not a terrible replacement getting Irad Ortiz Jr., right? So I went back and did some Pramana shift work and looked at this, and there have been 37 trainers that have made that move all time, going from Flavien Prat to Irad Ortiz Jr. 11 have done it more than once. Chad Brown has the highest winning percentage, 10 of 47, 21%, and 47% in the exacta. Is the highest winning percentage of any trainer that has made that move more than once. So can get it done. Doesn't scare me at all. Now, I do want to look at kind of a little bit of the performance here. Headline numbers debut was a bit of a cakewalk. That 11 3/4 length win was over this track. So he's obviously comfortable over this track, which you have to look at because it's different. He's won at the distance, I guess placed first at the distance, but considering definitely won at the distance on the past performances. If you look at the breeding, I then looked at it and I said, God, this is the all Steve Asmussen breeding, right? By Gun Runner out of a Curlin mare. So should have no distance, no problem with the distance. But interestingly enough, there's never been a starter by Gun Runner in the Mother Goose Stakes. And there are 3 this year in this race. Okay. He's been freshened since, she's been freshened since August 22nd. Both Gunsong and Tarifa, had that career best, which I'm trying to put a line through. I think headline numbers in this race is the up-and-coming horse, has the right connections, might be overlooked in the wagering, and I think is going to be sitting, going to spring the upset on or setting the pace in here at the wire.
Love it. Love it. Love it. I one thing that always throws me off horses like that is going off Lasix. into a
Yeah.
great stakes like this.
Yeah.
The other Chad Brown, Pretty Ann, is doing that, and also Linda Rice with Just Music on the outside, and Dorothy's Dream, the one
Yep.
for Ferraro, all going off Lasix, which affects horses all differently. But it's just something to take note of. But yeah, I mean, hard not to love Chad Brown, especially at Belmont, the Big A, whether it's with Irad or Flavian. Obviously Chancellor McPatrick, the trainer for the future Hall of Famer. Excited for that one at the Breeders' Cup. Did you like that win after I called that?
Talk it up now. You should get the trophy out. You should get the plaque engraved. I mean, honestly, what could go wrong? So we'll have that discussion about the next race that he's in anyway. So keep going.
Yeah, I'm excited. But I think it's all Tarifa here. I'm going against Gunsong. I think Gunsong ran her guts out and is going to come back a little bit less performing. However, Tarifa, I guess we can, cut that cotillion off, but we can still talk about it. Ran third last time out, Torpedo and Gunsong by 3 3/4 lengths, running that career best 106 Equibase speed figure. We all watched it. I mean, she ran a great race, made a move with the Grizzly on the final turn, and finished well. It was just not her day. Brad Cox does actually win at 24% in graded stakes with horses who ran their best career speed figure last time out, and 27% if you add Flavian Pratt to that, 20 of 74. And the stat lines for Cox are obviously insane. 10 of 14 in stakes races in the last 2 weeks, 71%. Cox started 7 for 16 in the last 10 days, 3 of 8, 38% at BAQ in the last 45 days. Or the past year, Cox wins at 36% in stakes races at Belmont, the Big A, 5 of 14. You find all those stat lines on the entries page at Equibase. He's winning at 42% in stakes races, all that you just said. But Tarifa, she's ranked second in here in early pace, first in middle pace with a 96.1, and second for late pace as well. Ranked first in average class with a 93, and second in average speed with an 89. This would be the farthest she's ever run, and obviously did not do well in the mile and an eighth in the Oaks. Speaking of the Oaks, here's another great stat line you can find on Pramana. Since 1991, horses who ran the Kentucky Oaks have won the Mother Goose Stakes 19 times, and 55 horses who ran in the Oaks finished in the money in the Mother Goose. So very interesting. Tarifa is the only horse in here coming out of the Oaks, and if she can go back to the form she was in before that first Friday in May, I mean, she just looks unreal. And I think in that Audubon Oaks, she's kind of coming back into her form after that tough Kentucky Oaks run. Cotillion, I thought she ran well, and I don't think she put in as much effort as Gunsong did, to get a third versus that second. And I think it was very meaningful, that amount of effort. So I love her. I mean, I think she's actually going to probably be second choice over Gunsong. So I'm going to take her all the way. And it's hard not to like Gunsong, but another horse that's interesting is Life Talk. Coming off a nice second place finish in that Seneca overnight at Churchill. Woo, that's an interesting horse. Last win came in December of 2023 in the Grade 2 Demoiselle, which was at the mile and an eighth distance over this Aqueduct Dirt. Out of the money in 2 out of her last 3 races, but she's been running against some really tough company. Just FYI, Power Squeeze, Regulatory Risk, Where's My Ring, Gin. It doesn't have the fastest speed numbers in here, but I think compared to the others, excluding Tarifa and Gunsong, she's definitely best in class, I think. But
I agree. I love the way she closed in that final furlong last race. It gets a little extra distance to run, which should be a good thing, actually. It's 3 straight improving figures. I do like that Pletcher and Carmouche are 27 of 109, 25% together since January of 2023. So that's good. Look, this to me is it's the gun runner, ceremonial race in here, because it's another gun runner in here. And I actually looked at I'm going to do a gun runner try, I think, just because.
Okay.
Gunsong, Life Talk. Right. So I think that's got to be your play, and they were right in the line too in the starting gate. But I think this horse will like to run on at the end. I don't know that Life Talk can win in my mind. I think the horses that you've talked about, Tarifa, Gun Runner, and Life Talk, have all only faced 3-year-olds in their career. And I do think that sometimes having that experience running against older can come into play when you're going back to running against only 3-year-olds. And that's why headline numbers kind of, to me, lightly raced. I think that's the one where it might have a little bit of upside that the others might have peaked or shown. I don't know. I just think that this is a horse that I'm going to try to play to try to capitalize on the way up. And then I think Life Talk will run up underneath there, and potentially Gunsong in there as well. I'm not quite as keen on your Tarifa horse, but that's just, horse players have an opinion.
Yeah. No, I love it. Yeah. Gunsong, I did pull up the stats for you, by the way. So Mark Henning in races after their career best speed figure last time out, he's just 8% in the last 3 years.
Yeah,
So
I mean, he's only 9% right now, at the meet, and 7% of his distance and surface. So again, if you take that 112 out, it's kind of ordinary. I mean, a lot of horses have similar running lines. So that's where you got to look at some overinflated value. And I think that 112 is going to jump out to bettors, and I think you're going to get a lot of overplay on it. And then I just probably put her right in the winner's circle, but I think she's going to get over.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, there's a reason she was 44-1. Last time out.
Well, I mean, that had a lot more to do with Torpedo Anna being in the race.
True. But Tarifa was 13-1. But I mean, 44 is a good bit. But well, there you have it. Corey's going with headline numbers, and I'm going with Tarifa for the Equibase featured race of the week, the Grade 2 Mother Goose Stakes. Thank you so much, Corey, for being on. This is always so much fun. And thank you, everybody, so much for watching. Good luck in your wagers, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.